Please be seated. God calls us to store up treasure in heaven. To understand this, we must first understand that God doesn't actually use currency. Jesus, of course, is only using a metaphor. The riches we receive from God are love, compassion, empathy, loving kindness. Earthly treasures are based on currency. They are transactional. God's abundance is measured in love. It is transformational. And maybe the hardest part to accept in the beginning is that we are already completely and unconditionally loved by God. We don't have to do anything to earn it. Think about it. Even the word earn is based on worldly wealth. We earn money. We are inherently worthy of love. What does it take for us to stop counting and start trusting? It's hard because we are so steeped in the language and expectation of our culture of economics that we find ourselves living into these expectations without thinking. They're everywhere. Just think about how words of the economy have entered our everyday language. We must earn love and budget our energy or emotions. We trade in secrets and value opinions. Relationships are made on the dating market. We speak of the cost of happiness, the price of freedom, and debts of gratitude. It's no wonder we find it so hard to trust in God's love and provision. We are trained by our culture to seek validation and security in money, possessions, and reputation. We hear these messages thousands of times every day that make it seem normal to measure our worth according to our clothes, our houses, our cars, jobs, reputation, and influence. And we cling to these security blankets because they offer a familiar, comforting illusion of control, even when they might weigh us down in debt. How do we stop counting and start trusting? Do not store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Jesus invites us to shift our focus from earthly treasures to the eternal abundance of God's love and providence. When we shift our focus from measuring our worth according to an economy to professing our worthiness according to God's grace, we are transformed. But our culture is so prevalent that we need to practice this faith to counter the harmful messages we constantly hear. It's not just a weekly practice at worship or a meal practice. We need daily, regular practices that remind us to continually reorient to God's abundance. As always, the Lenten season offers an invitation to explore ways to break free from the culture of currency, to stop counting and start trusting. We're invited to prayer, which refocuses our hearts on God's presence, to fasting that breaks our attachment to things that falsely promise security, study which deepens our understanding of what truly matters every day, and giving which loosens our grip on possessions and fosters generosity. But it's hard to practice this every day. So this Lent, I'm offering a form of tiny spiritual practices to guide your journey. Based on the psychology of habit forming that you may have heard or read about in books like Atomic Habits or Tiny Habits, these practices are tied to our current daily routines. They follow a simple pattern to help remind and encourage us to keep practicing. But instead of having to set aside 30 minutes or an hour and never finding the time, these practices require just a few moments or a thoughtful act. They invite you to consider 1 or 2 intentional acts each day to pray, fast, study, and give, to turn our attention back to God. Each small act, whether a whispered prayer, a moment of fasting, a thoughtful study, or a quiet act of generosity, seems small on its own. But over time, these choices accumulate, creating a heart full of God's riches. And when we stop counting and start trusting, we find that the riches we receive from God truly are love, compassion, empathy, and loving kindness. We find that we are reminded that God's love is transformational. Our eyes are open to God's abundance, and we are strengthened to be God's hands and feet in the world around us going forward.